Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to The Vibe. I'm still getting used to saying that name. I just love it. We changed our name to The Vibe, but we're still the same. We are still here to bring you interesting information, interesting guests, and tips about vibrantly living. My name is Yvonne Miles, and I'm the founder of Vibrantly Living You. And this is a health and wellness lifestyle, not just a coaching program, but it's more of a movement. And it's all dedicated to helping you claim health so vibrant, it's as though you're aging backwards. Now, I know I say that pretty much every week, but I say it because I know it to be true. It is possible. It is possible to take good health and make it intentional and really weave it into your lifestyle. So that's why I'm excited to be here with you today to bring a new fresh take on vibrantly living. Now, in March, we took a little bit of a pivot and started to focus on the chakra system, using that as a systematic way for us to evaluate where we are with our health and to notice if there are some gaps. And if there are some gaps, then provide some strategies for you to be able to close those gaps. Now, in March, now first I do want to say that the reason that we're doing this is that health, even vibrant health, is so much more than just what you eat and how you move, although you know you're going to hear me talk about those as being the two biggest tools in your toolkit for health. They are, absolutely. But your really strong, vibrant health encompasses all the elements of your life. And so that's why the chakra system becomes such a valuable tool to remind us to look into these other areas of our lives, maybe shine a light and see where we can make some improvements. If you're not familiar with the chakra system, then just think of it as your energetic body. It corresponds with the major glands and organs of your body. We're going to focus on the 7 major chakras. So in March, we started, of course, at the base with the root chakra, which was all about feeling safe and secure and making sure that your basic needs of survival are met. And then what you can do if anxiety and stress enters your life, and how you can approach from various angles. Well, for the month of April, we're going to take one step up that energy train and look instead at the sacral chakra, the second chakra. Its Sanskrit name is Svadhisthana. I just love how that rolls off of the tongue. It's very sensuous in itself. Svadhisthana. So let me tell you a little bit about Svadhisthana. The location, the physical location of Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra, is your pelvis. So just think of your pelvic bowl and all of the reproductive organs that are located there. The sacral chakra, this is why it's important to us. It is the seat of your emotions, of creativity, reproduction, creation. It also governs your sense of identity and your sense of self. So you can see that there's a lot to play with there that can provide a yardstick, really, to measure where we are or where you are on that continuum of health. The color of Svadhisthana is orange. So I'm wearing something that's got some orange in it. I'm wearing my orange mala beads. And the element, its element is water. So there's a lot of fluidity. Just think of how emotions flow. Fluidity, sensuality. Another visual image is a nice juicy orange. So that's Svadhisthana. So if everything is in good order, then you feel like you've got that flexibility, that fluidity, that ability to be yourself, to be sensuous, to connect with other people. But if there are some blockages in Svadhisthana, in your sacral chakra, then you may find that you have trouble entering into and maintaining intimate relationships with others, even with yourself. You may have difficulty accepting who you are. You may have blocked emotions. From a purely physical standpoint, there may be pain and various other abnormalities or issues in your reproductive organs. I know for women, a lot that can show up in a lot of different ways. But it can also show up in having difficulty with your hips or sciatica. So these are all those areas that are governed by Svadhisthana, by the sacral chakra. So a lot to work with. So that is why I have invited a friend of mine, and she's a fellow NIA teacher named Cambrey Lindsay, and she's here in her role not just as a NIA teacher, but also as a licensed therapist. And I'm going to bring her on in just a moment. First, though, I want to remind you to stay to the end of the presentation, because that's when I'm going to suggest a food. I call it a chakra food, and a chakra move of the week. And that's to remind you to stay connected to Svadhisthana and to bring it into your lifestyle. Because like I said, nutrition and movement, they really are the two biggest tools in your toolkit for health. Okay, enough delay. It is time to bring her on. Let me change the. There we go. There she is. It's Cambrey Lindsay. And
Hi. Hi, Yvonne. Thank you so much for having me today.
it's a absolute pleasure. I've been waiting for a way to weave you into what we are doing over here. So let me tell you a little bit about Cambrey. Cambrey is a licensed professional counselor who guides clients into self-awareness so that they can heal emotional conflict, depression, stress, anxiety, eating disorders, substance abuse issues. She also deals with patients, clients who are dealing with ADHD and post traumatic stress. In addition to her NIA teaching practice, she is also a certified trance dance facilitator, which is very interesting to me. So, once again, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So tell me, Cambrey, what is it that turns you on most about the work that you do?
Oh my gosh. Transformation. Transformation is key. Um, so often when people come to me for counseling and services, they are in some element of pain. And whether it be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or some combination thereof, and usually it's a combination of those. I really enjoy sitting down with people and listening to what their story is, asking more details about what the experience and trauma is that they might have had, and then jumping off of that as a platform for self-healing. It's about helping the individual know themselves better and where they want to grow.
Mm,
Because every individual inherently knows exactly what they need when they listen to their body.
yeah, you said a lot of good things in there that connect back to sacral chakra, to Svadhisthana, and around the self identity, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, and transformation, because we all want to move through those areas of pain and recognize who we are at our core.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes, something can be so deeply held or deeply rooted for a long time, and we don't even identify and know it's there
Mm.
until we have some other kind of life crisis. And then it becomes more apparent. So being in touch with the body, whether it's through the chakra system, the energy system, or the emotional system, how feelings emerge, really helps us key into what is going on in our history
Yeah,
and bring it to the present.
yeah, yeah. You and I were talking a little earlier, and you said something that caught my attention because it really did confirm that we're on the same wavelength. So much of our work intersects, and that is that everything begins in the body. So, can you give us some more context to that?
Yeah, your body is your first frontier. It's what you're born into. In the beginning, you're just cells, multiples and multiples of cells and tissue and water. And as you mentioned, that second chakra is all about fluidity, motion, and creativity, intimacy. And so as we develop as beings, we arrive from these tiny cells and grow larger and larger into becoming a more developed being. And how we experience that through our lifetime has so much to do with not just our genes and genetics, but also our environment. Um, the people that we're around, the activities that we participate in, the foods that we eat, the thoughts that we think play a huge role. And so it is all connected and interwoven into this dynamic essence of you that you were born into being. From the
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you're bringing a very um, psychological connection back into the chakra system and what Svadhisthana is all about. Because if you're not familiar with the chakras, it may seem like, oh, doesn't have anything to do, with it. That seems so exotic, so foreign, and yet you're definitely bridging that.
right.
Definitely.
And you know what? So many individuals, and I would like to say women in particular, but men as well, tend to be very protective around that second chakra region of the hips, because it seems to, in our society, it seems to convey or communicate certain messages. And so if you think about somebody walking down the street who's kind of swinging their hips a little bit, and think about some assumptions that observers could make about that individual.
Hmm.
And especially, I think, in the Me Too movement and some of the things that have happened in the past few years, there may tend to be a more protective sense of closing down that second chakra rather than rooting in, opening up, and moving through it. And I think there's a lot of value to come from doing that work in a safe space and in a safe way, of moving through that second chakra for um, intimacy, self knowledge initially.
Yeah.
And then also how your intimacy and self knowledge reaches out and connects with the world around you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That is so foundational because you can't
Yeah,
be authentically you, if you are bound up, if you've got those blocked emotions. So I know that you also sometimes use the term psychosomatic, right? So that
psychosomatic.
brings in that connection between your mental state and the body, which you
Exactly.
kind of hinted at there. And so, how do you see those difficulties with the psychosomatic intersection actually showing up in some of, in the clients that you work with?
Well, I think it really varies from case to case. When I work with children, for example, often they have a lot more freedom in their bodies and in their playfulness and willingness and curiosity. And so when I ask them to engage in certain exercises or activities of the body, like acting out scenarios that may have taken place with them, or healing those scenarios by acting them out with a different ending than what actually took place, you can almost viscerally and visually see a transformation taking place throughout their whole body and energy system. You can see it, you can sense it, you can see a wash over their facial expressions.
Mm.
Now, when I'm working with people that are a little bit older, whether it's adolescents or adults, or possibly even some of the people I work with that have been through a lot of trauma. More recently, I've been working with some people who have gone through sex trafficking experiences. And, when people have been victimized or traumatized in such a way, in a repetitive fashion, especially around that second chakra, um, the work there needs to be very tender, um, individualized, step by step. And I love the reminder that you're bringing about the fluidity there. And I think if we can stay with that tenderness and fluidity and all the work that I can do, if I can stay in that spot with my individual client, then I can best support their growth and self understanding.
Mm, yeah. It sounds like it's very tricky then to help them untangle some of the negativity that may have landed into their bodies from this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people hear so many messages, and also there's that protective sense, kind of like that outside sense of self that tells you you shouldn't, you're not good enough, that's bad, you should be ashamed, there's guilt. So there are a lot of those ugh, constrictive, contracting energies and messages that were given from our culture, society, and that we start getting them at a very young age. I mean, probably from the age of 2, 3, as soon as we really are perceiving that
Mhm.
people are giving us some form of guidance, lecture, discipline,
Mhm.
help, facilitation.
Yeah,
Um,
we're forming our personalities, our identity, trying to figure out
Absolutely,
our identity. Yeah.
spot on. And so, yeah, I think an individualized approach and being very tender
Yeah.
is going to be the best way to approach anybody, and learning what their experience is, where
Yeah.
they're coming from.
When with your clients, do you see those issues showing up for them physically as well? I mean, health issues, or do you see a combination of those?
So often.
Yeah.
And some of the ways they culminate, I think the most common would be anxiety,
Hmm.
a sense of dread, a sense of worry, a sense of agitation, and impending. I hate to use the word doom. Sometimes it is doom, but sometimes just impending unease, like a constant, even low level feel sense of things just aren't right. Something's about to happen. That doesn't seem to really attach to any one event, but through a course of experiences. And so untangling something as fine as that is probably the most challenging. If there was just one event, and that sounds kind of shallow when I say it that way, just one event can be phenomenally, harmful and destructive to a person. Um, but when you have one tangible story, and because we're human, we hold on to story. Story is meaning, syntax. Um, then we can work with that, break it down, and begin to examine what the relationship with the body is and the story up here in the mind.
Hmm.
So, yes, anxiety is one of the big ones. I also feel like there's a sense of control, a need for control.
Hmm.
And I imagine when we're working with second chakra, and there's that element of intimacy, creativity also, but intimacy in the sense of this is my body. I decide who can touch me and be intimate with me. Um, then sometimes people have developed more control issues, and that might have been what Freud was talking about oh so many, many, many years ago. Um, but essentially, if we feel like we have a lack of control or a lack of power, then we are always seeking to be right in the world. And sometimes being right in the world is over controlling. So we over control, we act out towards the people that we are in relationship with, that we work with, that are our families, and with ourselves as well. And so, in some of the ways that emerges is like an eating disorder. I need to control. I have no control in my life, but I know I need control. There's not much I can control. And these often start in adolescence and youth. Have no control. My parents are dictating everything. And so there's this, kind of sense that I have no other option than to be in control of what do I have control over? What I put in my body.
Hmm.
And so that is often how an eating disorder can emerge.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so it begins. And
yeah,
so it begins. Yeah. What an interesting connection, that sense of identity, control, and then an eating disorder. Mm.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and again, that is one of those more visceral type of, we call them disorders, but I'm going to call it, it's fairly common, you know, in this day and age. Eating disorders are very common and prominent.
Yeah.
And along with eating disorders and the sense of needing control, what's emerged and been more in the media is perhaps self harm,
Mm.
not with the intention of suicide per se, but self harm as in, I need control. I feel out of control. I feel numb. I don't know what to do with these emotions. It can be like a wide array of, I'm out of control, too many emotions overwhelming me, to now I'm numb, I'm constricted. And some of these elements then lead somebody to cut because it releases chemicals in the brain that help them feel again. It's like it's kind of like a high. It's like a runner's high or an exerciser's
Yeah. Thank you
experience.
for laying it out that way because that is one area that I've just never really been able to wrap my brain around is, why someone would harm themselves in that way. But I think that, the key there is that first there's the numbness brought on by all of the trauma, first the numbness, and then just the desire to feel. And doesn't that say something about us as humans that we want to feel? We want to
I want to feel. I
our
want to feel, I want to experience, but I also want to have some control over it because I don't want it to overwhelm me.
yeah,
I want
right,
just the right amount.
right, right,
Not
right.
too
Yeah.
little, not too
So once
much.
again, we're in the right area because, Svadhisthana, it's the seat of the emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just learned something here. This is so yeah. I do want to connect back to something that you said because this is something we've dealt with for from the beginning with Vibrantly Living You, and that is that when you have this constant drumbeat of stress that puts you into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, then that's keeping the stress hormones active in your body all the time. And then that is uh, primarily a disease pathway. It's like taking the freight train or the fast train to
Amen.
yeah to heart disease, to stroke, to diabetes, to any number of other underlying issues because your body's not designed to have to deal with high levels of anxiety on a 24/7 basis. So I
Bingo.
just to connect back to that. We've talked about that, especially when we were focusing a lot on anxiety and stress in March. And so I invite any of you watching this, if you didn't see those, to look back at either Vibrantly Living You Facebook page, or I have put the recordings of those interviews about how to deal with anxiety and stress on my website, which is thelivingyou.com, and that's the letter U. So www.thelivingyou.com, and you can find those recordings, and eventually we'll have this recording up there as well if you want to pass this on to your friends. So moving on, especially since you are a movement professional, I'm curious, in what ways do you use movement to help your clients discover self expression and a deeper sense of their self, or in this case, just simple healing?
Mhm. Uh, well, there are many ways. Often, when I receive a client and they come to see me the first time, they haven't had a lot of movement experience. So I'm going to start very slowly and very gently. We might just begin with some deep belly breathing, meditative breathing, and focusing on the proper way of inhaling in through the nose, bringing it into the seat of the belly, expanding the lungs and the chest fully, letting the diaphragm drop and lift, and exhaling. And that, if we really focus on it in and of itself, can do amazing work in helping reduce anxiety. I feel like there's often a misnomer that when somebody's having a panic attack, we tell them, take deep breaths, take deep breaths. But if we don't have the right amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen, then we also get out of balance. We get more of the tingles, the extremities. So movement wise, just starting with some simple breathing and learning some proper breathing technique is a nice, gentle way for anybody of any background, any movement experience. Another way I love to connect with people and get to know them is getting them to do an outdoor walk. Let's do a walking meditation. And as we walk, we go through the five senses. There's eyes, so we look at the colors and we describe them as visibly and vividly as we can to ourselves or out loud in practice to one another. Then we go with the sounds that we hear on the walk. Do you hear the birds? Maybe you're on a path, but there's traffic going by. You can acknowledge that you're receiving and hearing that. And then we go through smells. What do you notice? As you breathe in, again, the focus back to the breath and sync with the steps and moving along in the body. And touch. If I'm walking along, I'm often curious. I might want to stroke a tree. I might want to put my hands on a tree or the grass or pluck a little wildflower. And then, of course, there's sense of taste, which we don't always have the opportunity to do on a meditative walk, but you can be aware of what the sensation and taste is in your mouth. You know,
Mm.
maybe you have some gum. Maybe you just had some coffee.
That is just lovely. I take walks on a frequent basis, but I never think of them as a meditative walk. And what you just described, intentionally connecting with your senses, sensuality, once again,
Oh, yeah.
it sounds so soothing, so soothing. So I'm just curious. Any of you who are watching this later, drop a line in the comments thread if any of that sounds wonderful, or if you're going to give yourself the gift of taking your own meditative walk, then tell us about that. And or if you have already done these kinds of walks, tell us what your experience has been. I'd love to hear from you. I can just tell right away, Cambrey, that if I needed to have a therapist, then you're the one I think I want to call on. This just sounds so. I love how you go. Well, you become very well, I just have to say the word intimate, and I know that can be taken in a certain context, but you get really close to your clients, and I love the relationship that you're building, a relationship of trust, and it's it's based on very simple concepts: breathing, walking, listening. That's just I love that. So, can you describe some of the transformations that you have seen in your clients?
Oh, my word. Wow. Well, there is a vast array, and each one is unique and very special. I've had clients that I've witnessed grow from being young adolescent girls into women and grow confidence and strength in their identity and who they are, by self-awareness practices and mindfulness, mind-body practices. That is beautiful, because then I see them become these adults who go out into the world and engage in life in such a connected and not afraid of vulnerability, in a
Mm,
vulnerable way, but also with boundaries.
mm.
And I think it's key that we don't get too hardened and don't get too rigid in the lines that we draw, but also know where our lines are for
Mhm.
our own protection, especially when it comes to that second chakra, intimacy. Transformation in so many ways. People in their body, once you get to know your body, once you know yourself by breathing, moving, walking, dancing, Nia, wow, it just continues to blossom and flourish. And it's never too late. You're never too old. You're never too different body size. There's nothing inappropriate or wrong. It's always the perfect time. Even if you are lying in a bed or sitting in a chair, um, you are doing a wonderful job by focusing on your breath, your body, and your awareness of yourself.
Mm. I just feel so touched by hearing about the transformations that you have helped enable, especially for adolescents moving or young girls moving into womanhood. And that just must feel so fulfilling for you. And
Love
I'm
it.
so grateful that we have people like you in the world doing that work. Very, very grateful. I just want to ask just a couple more questions, and one is about the pandemic. Let's talk about the pandemic. It seemed to have changed the life for pretty much everybody. What has the pandemic taught you about being flexible? Because remember, flexible fluidity. Oh, Swadhisthana.
Oh, wow. About being flexible. Well, if you haven't heard my dogs barking in the background, kids at school while I'm working from home, flexibility. Wow. I have to get out of the house. I work from home. My kids are virtual online school, but I must absolutely get out of the house. I take walks. I go to the office once a week and see people in person. I just need a change. I think we need a change of environment, and we need to remember to be in our body and inhabit ourselves first wherever we go and whatever we do. It's our first frontier.
I love that. Inhabit ourselves first. I inhabit yourself first. I like that. If that resonates with you, again, drop a line in the chat. Inhabit yourself first. Inhabit your body first. Oh, that's. I need to write that down. Stick it on the wall. Stick it on the wall. Okay. So, is there anything else that you would want to share that we haven't had a chance to cover?
Oh my goodness.
Doesn't have to be anything, but just if there's something that you've been wanting to say that I haven't asked you.
Oh, you've done such a great job of asking questions. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour. um, but you hit on some really beautiful subjects, and highlighting that really being in ourselves, owning who we are, well, we can't own our who we are if we don't know who we are. And how do we begin that process? How do we begin to understand the complex individual that each of us has grown into being? It takes self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
and practices of self-knowledge and gaining that. And as I stated, I think the best way to begin is simply with breath and simple movement, and then watch that flower blossom and branch out from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for making it so simple. Breath, breathe, have that connection to self, inhabit your body, and move. So, one of the things that Cambrey and I have in common is that we are both Nia teachers. And Nia is this wonderful, incredible movement, conscious movement technique that is full of celebration. It celebrates your body, it inspires your mind, it embraces emotional expression, it connects you to your emotions. So, it's a great way to release emotions and maybe begin that process of discovering who you are, moving blocked energy. And so, my last question for you, Cambry, is would you like to tell people how they can find your NIA classes online?
Oh, absolutely. You can go to Facebook and send a request to join the HTX NIA class page. And you can find live classes there and recorded classes. We also have the Houston NIA Collective website, houstonniacollective.com. And that will also give you a rundown of the classes that are available and locations. Some of them are online, and there's actually one very special class. My favorite one is on Sundays, and that is in person, outdoors in the community. And I welcome you to join us there at 10 a.m. Sunday at a location on Durham Avenue. It's called Fuegos. saloon. They have a little astroturf backyard area, and you can wear your shoes. You can bring your water bottle and a mask, and bring your curiosity and your sense of wonder and awareness for your body and wanting to get to know your own body's movements and joy. We'd
Yeah.
love to have you.
And play. Absolutely. And we will drop links. I will drop a link in the comments so that you can find the Houston Nia Collective Facebook page, but also the HTX Nia class private group so that you can connect with both Cambrey, and I also teach classes out there as well. But I got to tell you, the Sunday class is becoming one of my favorites because we get to do it outside. We get to do it outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll make sure you have that information. Okay. So just as, just one reminder here, we are talking about wellness through the lens of the chakra system, but I'm not saying that you're broken or that you need to be fixed. This is all about looking for those gaps so that you can close that gap, so that you can make those adjustments, so that you can actually begin to raise the vibration of your life. Vibrantly living you. It all comes back to this, the vibe. You can see how it all starts to connect. I love it. So, if you've encountered any of the difficulties, the symptoms that we've mentioned here, or even if you just have a sense of emptiness in that chakra area, then consider that you can find ways to draw energy back into your sacral chakra. And that may open your eyes to new ways to view your body, new ways to move your body. And so that HTX NIA class group will definitely be there to help you with that. I do want to put in a little plug and a reminder that I am offering a private energy coaching and NIA class series that I am calling Raise Your Joy. So this is my first opportunity to create some NIA classes in a virtual environment, but also combine it with some private one-on-one laser coaching. And the purpose of that is to help you shine that light in those private sessions, in those areas where maybe there's a gap, and then maybe I can help you find a way to close that gap. It'll happen over 4 Fridays, the group NIA classes, but you'll have that 4-week period in which to meet up with me in 2 different laser coaching sessions. So that begins on April 23rd and will go through until May 17th. And through that, I want to take that stand for you to raise your energy, to feel stronger, to feel more confident, to move your body, to feel fluid, and to simply raise your joy. So I'm very excited to be able to offer this package. I think it is the first time that I've come out and offered both the NIA and the laser coaching. The way to find more information, if you want to know a few more details and then register, which I hope you would do, is to go once again to my website, www.vlivingyou.com. That's the letter U, vlivingyou.com, and you can find the information there and sign up. So I do hope you'll do that before the spaces fill up. I only have a certain number of slots on my calendar, so I hope you'll be the one to grab your slot. All right, I did promise that I would give you a chakra food and a chakra move of the week. Very simple. The chakra food, actually we've moved on from just like single food and into some recipes. And this one is going to be a minty sesame dressing. Full disclosure, I have not experimented with this, but it really does sound good. Minty sesame dressing. And I'm choosing dressings and sauces for the month of April because they're fluid, right? They're fluid and it'll allow for that flow. So we're honoring that elemental nature of Svadhisthana. And that's to remind us to stay flexible and to bring new bits of tasty bits of newness into our lives. So minty sesame dressing. I will have a recipe. If you want that, you'll have to go to my private Facebook group, Vibrantly Yours, and you can find the recipe there. And of course, I'll put a link in the comments on how you can get to Vibrantly Yours. If you're not a part of our community, I do invite you. All kinds of wonderful content and inspiration out there, and a lovely community that's very supportive of everybody raising their vibration. The chakra move of the week. I thought a lot about this one because we've got, I've got some movement going, but this one's actually rather static, I would say. And it's going to be the yoga boat pose. If you've never done that before, it's very simple. You sit on your tailbone and raise your knees up, extend your arms outward, and then hold this position. I don't even think I can do this in my chair. I don't need whoa. I can't get far enough back to find my balance point. But it's okay to have your toes on the floor, or if you need to lift, you can lift one knee and extend out. The whole point, thank you, Cambrey. Yeah, and if you can, lift both knees and both feet off of the floor. So what you're doing is creating those boundaries. Yeah, you're creating strength in the core, which begins to create those boundaries around that sacral area. You can also just check out what the boat pose looks like on the internet. So that's the chakra move and the chakra food. As we draw this to a close, I want to once again say thank you, Cambrey, for sharing your brilliance with us here today. Your clients are indeed fortunate to have you as their guide in connecting to their self-awareness. And you've just reinforced why I feel so fortunate to have you in my life as not just a fellow NIA professional, but also as a friend and an inspiration. Thank you so much for taking time.
It is mutual, Yvonne. Thank you so much for having me today.
We'll find a way to bring you back, I'm sure. So as I close, I just want to remind all of you to be kind to yourself. Be kind to your body. Breathe, eat well, move, and really tap into who you really are. You get to choose on who you really are as an authentic being. And there are, people here to help, like Cambrey, like myself. That is the wonderful lesson that we get to learn from Svadhisthana, our sacral chakra. Because once you're able to incorporate all these energies, then you can begin to experience that is health, that is vibrant. And it's so vibrant, it's as though you're aging backwards. So we'll be back next week. I have another very engaging guest. We will talk about some of these same issues from a slightly different perspective. These issues of self-acceptance and body positivity. And I'm just so pleased to be able to bring a woman who is a world-class belly dance teacher and performer, as well as being an entrepreneur. Her name is Sahira, and I will be bringing her here for this. And so you don't want to miss this episode of The Vibe, for sure. Last reminder, look in the comments for information on how to connect with Cambrey for her NIA classes. Remember my Raise Your Joy coaching package and NIA class package. And we'll see you next week here on The Vibe. And until then, remember that a vibrant life is yours for the taking. See you next week.